What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Crypto Airborne in the house, dropping you guys the latest and greatest cryptocurrency news and updates. Welcome Wednesday. We got the VGX Heroes Twitter AMA. It's going to be a great show tonight. We have a special guest. We have the dude who did the half-court shot, who made $100,000, or actually, who won $100,000 in Bitcoin from Voyager, from the Dallas Mavericks game, coming on just to talk about his story, his experience, everything. So it should be a great show. I'm going to jump through a quick market update real quick. Probably going to have to skip through it, but market's up 0.2%. Bitcoin 68.8 thousand. We got Ethereum at about 4,500 and Solana at about $245. Crypto Fear and Greed Index, I think I refreshed it, but we are now 73. Greed from extreme greed, so it's good. You know, market was down earlier today, so it's not expected. We're down a little bit, so it's good to see that we retraced a little bit. But before we begin, I'm going to skip everything because it's already 9 o'clock Eastern. So Isaiah Stone, he's going to be talking about his experience and whatnot, but he made half-court shot, won $100,000 in Bitcoin from Voyager. And I'm not going to play the audio because it gave me a copyright strike for the audio. But basically, this is what happened. It's pretty cool. So they were hyping him up. He looked around. He shot. One shot. Boom. Made it. Voyager. Boom. Love the shout out. Awesome. So he's pumped. Awesome. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the show. You know, like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to try to keep up with timestamps tonight just so you guys can skip through to the sections that you guys want. But I'll try to get it up tonight. If not tonight, I'll probably do it sometime tomorrow. But hopefully you guys enjoy it tonight.
You make this
cryptocurrency news and
thousand, 15,000. I ended up losing like $50, and so I just threw in the towel. I was like, this isn't going anywhere. I don't really want to do the math on that right now, but I definitely regret not keeping the money in there. I'm not saying I would have been a millionaire by any means, but I definitely would have had a few extra bucks that I could have played around with over the last 4 or 5 years, and so definitely regret that. But during the pandemic, like many, I wanted to start looking into investing more, and so I think a lot of people at that time, they were kind of like looking around and trying to figure out how they can get some additional money, how they can get some extra money. And so a lot of people went to crypto. I personally went towards looking at the stock market. And so I started investing in mainly individual funds, but then started learning more and focused more on index funds, just because the anxiety was a bit much for me watching it consistently fluctuate, which I guess I'm kind of getting back into that game with the crypto market. But I always wanted to get back into the crypto game, but I really never knew how to or when to. That was a huge thing. So at that time, of course, like Bitcoin rose a little bit, and so in my head, I'm still thinking like it's gonna dip. Like when it dips, that's when I'm gonna jump in, right? And I feel like that's kind of like the thought process that a lot of people go through. But right now, Bitcoin's at 60K. knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't dip too much, but this was definitely a good opportunity for me to personally get back into the game and I guess give it another shot, and hopefully I'm on this for the long road. And so again, I think overall, kind of going full circle back into it, trying to learn more than I knew before, so that I don't pull out the money too early or anything like that. And so like I said, I really appreciate being part of this group. I really appreciate everyone reaching out to me. I don't have a clever name like everyone else yet, so if nobody has picked anything LeBron related, LeBron Gaines will definitely be my name going forward. So hopefully I have a chance to make a nice character for that, so that I can, of course, fully be into the group with everyone.
I'll make sure it's locked down. LeBron James is all yours, and you'll be known as LeBron Gaines. 100%.
Love it. That used to be my my Twitter name, and then I ended up changing. Actually, really recently. It's funny when after I hit the shot, like Voyager reached out and they're like, "Hey, like we want to use your Twitter and your Instagram so that we can share it." I didn't mention this. I'm from Michigan, so I actually saw somebody in the Discord was Sparty fan for life. So go green to whoever that guy is. And so now I, of course, live in Dallas, and so I'm a diehard Pistons fan through and through. And so initially, when they reached out, all of my Twitter stuff was like Pistons #1 draft pick and pictures of like Cade Cunningham and all of this stuff that was Pistons related. So once they reached out, I was like, well, shoot, I got to scrub all of this stuff off. Made it as wholesome. That's my niece in my picture, and I was like, this is going to be so much cuter for Voyager to share this rather than a Pistons fan wins all this money at the Mavericks game. So yeah, eventually I'll go back to LeBron Gaines on that.
Right on, man. And now we want to open up the floor to you.
Awesome.
And any questions that you have on the crypto investment, this whole space, really, this is what this educational AMA is all about, is educating people. So the floor is all yours, man. What questions do you have for us?
Yeah. So I wrote down a few different questions. Again, just to be transparent with everyone, I'm pretty green in terms of my knowledge for crypto. And so a lot of these questions, and hopefully there's other people here that are just trying to learn and get as much information that they can. A lot of my questions are going to be like not only like how do you get started, but where am I learning a lot of that thing. So my first question are like, what videos, books, articles, et cetera, that you guys think would be beneficial for me to start looking into. Like me and my girlfriend have definitely done our own research because again, the last couple of days we're just like, well, what is our first step, right? And so I think really getting some of those videos, getting some of those resources. One thing is specifically podcasts. That's where I learned a lot about the stock market, was from different podcasts, like either driving places or like working out to those podcasts and listening. And so if anyone has any suggestions, that would be awesome to really get me started.
I think two parts there. The first part I'm going to hand off to Michael about, resources outside of podcasts. But as far as podcasts go, let's shift that over to Jack Nicholson, Frankie, because he was mentioning that a couple of spaces ago. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So we've already got you on the Discord there, and I saw that you've got sidekick privileges. Now that you picked the hero, you'll go ahead and you'll get upgraded to hero. I think either way, though, you can actually see that we have a resources channel on there where a bunch of this information's been curated. And I kind of touched on it at the beginning of the spaces, but kind of the goal of these educational AMAs is to make sure that everybody can have the resources to educate themselves in the space, because with a lot of the hype in the crypto space, everybody comes in, or a lot of people come in because they see somebody or hear somebody that goes that 100x and goes 0 to hero and makes a fortune. And it's one thing to come in for the hype and kind of the degenerate gambling aspect of it, but it'd be nice if people had stayed because they were educated enough to navigate better decisions after that. So that's kind of been our goal. So if you go onto the Discord, and if anybody's not on the Discord, it's not like this is something that we keep top secret. We're happy to share this with anybody, but there's a resources tab, and there's a PDF in there that's pinned to the channel at all times. It starts with a crypto crash course playlist of educational videos that kind of gives you a bit of an evolution starting from 0 all the way through, just with the origins of Bitcoin and the early days, and then evolves a bit to, Ethereum and its evolution, and then the ICO craze and altcoins, and it kind of takes you through the journey that you would go through naturally, just at an accelerated pace. And you've got a number of other video resources there. If you didn't want to watch it in the playlist format, just some particular people that tend to be of the more trustworthy variety, or people that when you kind of listen to a mix of them all, you get a good balance. And then books wise, I would definitely think that everybody should just start with the Bitcoin Standard. And I guess this isn't just a Bitcoin group, but that's a good place to start, because the first 7 chapters of that book explain the history of money and monetary policy and the impact of decisions related to monetary policy that I think should be mandatory study for every man, woman, and child on earth. But unfortunately, it's been kind of excised from a lot of our civics that we learned growing up. So that's a great place to start. And then you get to see the advent of Bitcoin, and then just kind of more philosophically within the space, I would look at another book called The Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth, The Sovereign Individual, things that just kind of lay the foundation for understanding the space, the origins of the space, what can happen from here. There's another one, Layered Money by Nick Badia, that I would highly recommend. There's a bunch that are on there. There are a handful of podcasts on that list as well, but I'll save that for Jack Nicholson or Frankie to dive into in a little bit. And then I think what I would highly recommend is to dig in on the website side of things. The one area where I typically emphasize with people that are new to the space is on the OPSEC side of things. So making sure that you are following best practices for, one, maintaining your privacy and your anonymity when you can, but mainly for maintaining your security, both from an internet security perspective, a financial security. There are certain decisions that you'll learn along the way that can either disclose or leak a lot of information, or you can navigate that same decision in such a way that you protect your identity and you protect your anonymity and security. So there's a bunch of good content there, as far as, password managers, using high entropy, individualized passwords for each account, using 2-factor authentication for your accounts. And to go through everything in one sitting would be like drinking from the fire hose. But we have covered this on a number of past AMAs too, that we could refer you to, that I think are all timestamped on Crypto Airborne's channel. Also be happy to kind of take you under our wing and walk you through it. But as far as the broad strokes of what you should be learning about, it should be, OPSEC and best practices for how to handle your assets safely. Just some of the foundational aspects of what the space is all about and what the space can solve and what things are good or bad for each particular use case. And then ultimately, it's important to learn how to do your own research on projects too. And I would be the probably strongest proponent of don't buy something just because somebody says to. And your investment thesis should never be that you like something because somebody that you likes it too. You should always have a solid investment thesis because you actually understand your strategy going in. And it's also important to know if you do plan on exiting, like some people convert to a Bitcoin Standard and stay there. And most people don't start that level of maxi. But if it's truly just an investment vehicle, I would highly suggest having an exit strategy made at your entry point so that you're not then caught up in the emotions later on that come with it. So some of that is well delineated in some of the resources that we have on our page. And then you could really get deep into the pool too, and we're happy to go there. But we've got everything from, the hardware side of things, running sovereign nodes and peer-to-peer payments, crypto taxes. There's a bunch of stuff on there related to that. And I think you said that you've got a family, so we've also got some fun family stuff on there too, to kind of just acclimate everybody in your orbit to the space too. So I know in my family, there's a couple games that we like to play at home that are Bitcoin oriented or crypto oriented. They're called Shamory and Bitopoly, and they're fun. They're fun kids games that my kids like to play just because they're enjoyable. Like, they don't know that they're learning something in the process, but they are. So there's a bunch of cool stuff in the space. There's a ton of great resources on that page. And I'd be happy to talk at greater lengths about any of them, but in the interest of somewhat brevity now, I'll go ahead and kick things over to Frank, and he can dive into the podcast of it, because I think he's got a wider net when it comes to podcasts than I do. I tend to be a little bit one note at this point.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And congratulations, Isaiah. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're the crypto was Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken. One podcaster that I really come to appreciate, and the guy really needs more followers because I think he just started. Ian Majors makes Bitcoin and everything that comes with it easy to understand, very complex subjects, just completely, explains it to me like I'm 5. So, from that point of view, from the Bitcoin point of view, definitely recommend that podcaster, Ian Major. Then what Michael alluded to with operational security and privacy and all that stuff. Once you start getting into the deep end of the pool, Tales from the Crypt with Marty Bent and Matt Odell. Those guys, are gonna want to make you go full plastic cup and string with your buddies to make calls. But yeah, those are the two big ones. Then there's once you start getting into the altcoins, there's Andreas Antonopoulos has great technical knowledge on both Bitcoin and ETH, and then the Crypto Dad as well. So I think I have a post in Discord, or I should probably make one of all these podcasters. But yeah, that's what I have.
Michael, Frankie, thank you. Isaiah, I hope you're not taking notes because that's why we're recording this thing. So you could just kind of absorb all of it. And we have a request to speak from our Voyager Duck. Maybe he has a podcast to add to this. Let's see, 1 second here. Approve. Should be good soon here, Duck. Go ahead.
Hey guys, first off, congrats. That's awesome. I just wanted to say that I kind of started as far as a podcast that made things simple for me with Bitcoin Hard Money You Can't Fuck With. It's a Jason Williams podcast. It's really straightforward. I think the most important thing about when people say do your own research, it's that at some point the market or Bitcoin is going to tank like 15-20%. That might last 2 minutes, it might last a day, it might last a month, but it's going to scare the shit out of you if you don't know the fundamentals of it. And if you do know those fundamentals, it's going to be way easier to just close your screen and ignore that. So I think that's the main point when people say do your own research of why it matters. So, but I just really love that podcast. He breaks it down, and some of the stuff he talks about, we're already seeing play out with like countries jumping in. So that's where I would start personally, is with that podcast. But like Frankie had some good recs too. So, all right.
Thanks, Duck. Isaiah, go ahead and respond or hit us with your next question, man.
No, I definitely appreciate that. Like I said, I think definitely heavy on the podcast as far as like getting a lot of the education, especially since I'm working from home. It's never bad to have something playing in the background. So as far as like the Ian Major stuff, if he's explaining it like I'm 5, that's right on brand. So I'll accept that. So the next part, which is not a little bit different from just getting the education, but the next question is like, what platforms, like sites and apps, of course, Voyager's hopefully on there, but do you guys utilize to keep an eye on like growth, trends, and just news in general?
CDP, CDP, CDP. That's Crypto Daddy Pig, by the way. Isaiah, go ahead.
Yeah, so just a little bit in terms of my background. I picked up crypto at the beginning of 2020. I was actually a big sports betting guy or not necessarily a big sports betting guy, but was interested in sports betting for a way to kind of actively make some income on the side, but do it in a form non-degenerate way. So I joined a Discord about sports betting, and then somebody popped in and created a channel for crypto, and that's basically how I started my crypto journey. So of course I will go ahead and plug our Discord because there's, I mean, an abundance of information on our Discord. Plenty of channels for altcoins, Voyager, and stock talk. All sorts of things, and a lot of people who are really engaged there and are happy to help you out. I will encourage you to reach out to us, or just me directly if you'd like, and I can try to answer any question that you have. And if I can't answer it, I'll find somebody on the team who can. When I started, I didn't have this community, so I had a lot of self-taught moments. YouTube is a great spot, but you got to be careful because there's some people who have hidden agendas there that may not necessarily be giving you the best information possible. So I encourage you to, follow a few of the major guys. I mean, there's guys, that have 100,000 plus followers, and sometimes they give you good information, and sometimes they're just shilling their own coin that somebody's paying them to mention. So you really kind of got to DYOR and really listen to what they're saying. And I think that one of the biggest things that I have learned to do is jot down what they're saying and go back to it in a couple weeks and see if anything that they actually presented played out. You do a paper trade based off of what they're saying, and at that point you can determine whether or not the information that they're giving you is them trying to sell you the top, or if they really have some information that they're going to be beneficial for you moving forward. There's a lot of people who like to push sentiment on the community. There are some paid platforms that are available where you could do that sort of research, or basically pay somebody else to do it for you. There's also free opportunities for you to do that yourself. Lunar Crush is one that gauges basically Twitter sentiment, and if you feel like that's beneficial to your trading strategy, then you can take a look at that and try to decipher the charts and see if they correlate. There is a unofficial VG or Voyager Telegram that's available that provides a lot of good information. It's fairly Voyager specific, but since you are on the platform, we can certainly find a way to get you into that. There's Reddit groups, there's Facebook groups, but for me, I like to do my own sentiment analysis, and I like to do my own charting. So Twitter's the best space for me. And that's because I can gauge sentiment based on what the people in the VGX community are saying. I can say what the people outside of the VGX community are saying, and basically gauge my own sentiment from there. But yeah, I mean, there's an abundance of resources out there for you, and we're more than happy to help you out along the way. Encourage you to reach out to anybody in the community, and if they can't answer your question, somebody else will be able to. They'll find somebody else who can do that for you.
Thank you, CDP. Isaiah, go ahead.
No, I really appreciate that. And CDP, I have to let you know, I'm obviously like texting friends too while we're talking about this, and you are definitely a fan favorite just based off the name. So, so good job, man. So my other question, obviously this is a VGX like heavy group, as far as like some of the main focus. So why VGX? I personally have never heard of VGX until last Thursday, Voyager as a whole. But you guys all seem very involved, very interested. Like you have faith in like that VGX has a lot of potential. What is making you think that way, and like what are you guys seeing that is really catching your eye?
I'm going to hand this off to the strong man, Stone Cold, to talk about VGX as well as the loyalty program. Go ahead, Stone Cold.
Yeah, hey Isaiah, I'm a fellow North Texan as well, so pleasure to make your acquaintance. Speaking from my personal experience, I noticed VGX because when I first joined way back in February of 2020. I joined for the interest boost on USDC, which bumped it up like 1.5%, and VGX was super cheap at the time, seemed like a no-brainer. And then over the course of a couple months, it ended up jumping almost 16,000%. And I'm pretty sure that's what caught everyone's eye and, you know, kind of put VGX on the map, seeing this token just skyrocket out of nowhere. So that's kind of where I think people started really noticing the token for those that weren't early adopters. And then specifically for the loyalty program, so that's really what gives VGX the value and what everyone was waiting for back in 2020 and 2021. So we just went through we're coming up on our second month of the VLP and its first iteration. And right now it's broken up into 3 different tiers. You have an Adventurer, Explorer, and Navigator, which are 500 tokens, 5,000, and 20,000 respectively. And then right now there's a couple of benefits, and we're expecting another iteration of the VLP in December, possibly early 2022. So what we're looking at is the main value there is a 7% reward, so that's paid out monthly. So that applies to every user, and even those that aren't in the VLP, the ones that even have 100 tokens now, are going to get that 7% reward paid out every month. So that's one of the major ones, because even though the tokens available to be purchased outside of the US right now, those users can still stake those tokens and get that reward. So that's kind of what it's most known for. And then for the other ones, we have our earnings rewards boost for USDC, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. And so based on your tier, you get a 0.5%, 1%, or 1.5% boost. So if you end up doing your research, decide you want to stay in Bitcoin, it might make sense to look at adding some VGX to get that extra boost. And we actually have a couple different calculators in the resources page of the Discord, so you can plug in your own personal numbers, see how long it would take to make your money back if you made for what you paid on VGX and what its current price is. And then also lets you estimate, well, if you think Bitcoin is going to be $200,000 a year from now, you can plug that number in, and it really kind of puts everything in perspective and gives you a better time frame of when you might recoup that money. And then you also have the crypto cashback rewards, which are based on the order optimization price. And so anytime you do a market buy, Voyager sends that order. They have a couple different exchanges they go through, and they get you the best price. So if the price you get is lower than the quoted price, then you're going to get that difference either times by 1, 2, or 3, depending on which tier you're in. And that's been getting a lot of popularity once people kind of realized if you are really familiar with certain coins, you can kind of trade levels and really bump up those rewards. So, and then coming down the line, we also have, there's a debit card, desktop app, withdrawal fee reduction, and also introducing a burn for the token. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up, but that's what's currently in the VLP right now.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that VGX is the lifeblood of Voyager. I like to think it less of a crypto app and more of a financial lifestyle app. What we're seeing now is just the beginning. So all the different ecosystems that are going to be added to this platform, such as stocks and lending, and who knows what else. VGX VLP is going to tie into that. I feel fairly certain and assure myself that that's going to happen. I also feel like this question is a really good round robin question as well. And I see Peter Griffin here is requesting to speak on to why VGX. And I encourage the audience as well to, raise your hand and answer this question from your perspective. All right, so let's see. Peter Griffin, go ahead. I just approved you. You should be good in a moment here. Welcome.
Thanks. I think you were welcoming me
me on while I was switching over to speaker. So, hey everybody, it's awesome to be here. Nice to meet you. I am Peter Griffin, VGX Hero. But to answer your question, so obviously there's a ton of answers why anyone gets interested in a specific project, right? And there's probably going to be 30 different answers, and they're all going to be right, I think. One thing for me that really stood out, though, is I got into crypto really full time, like in 20, or not full time, but like really put a serious amount of effort and resources towards this starting in 2017. And I saw Binance, and I was using Binance at the time, and you saw Binance Coin kind of go from pretty much a nothing ball to developing an ecosystem and building out, and now it's like $500 or $600. And that was one thing that kind of interested me about Voyager is that I realized they're building out this ecosystem, but the big thing for me that differentiated them is that they're based in the United States, which is obviously a really big thing because, obviously we can trust that our government is going to, hold certain corporations accountable. And then the number two was that they're publicly traded. So a lot of their records and all their financials and everything like that are public, and they obviously have quarterly earning calls and everything. So I looked at Binance and I saw, okay, this is what they did. And I was around when they were, $1 a piece or whatever they started out at. Here's where they are now. Now, here's an American company who's now doing everything correctly, though, through the regulators, doing everything by the books, and they're building out this huge financial lifestyle app that Floki was mentioning. But I can feel confident because they're going through all the regulations and they are publicly traded and all that. This project is going to be here to stay. It's going to get the support that it needs to continue to grow, and that I can attach myself through the VGX coin to this company and to this project and this future lifestyle app at a very early stage. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Peter, for jumping on, and Stone Cold for laying it down with the VLP. Isaiah, go ahead, man. Go ahead and respond or hit us with your next question. Oh, wait 1 second. I see we have a request from Orange Circle Shark, from what I can see. Superb. Diamond Hands. I just gave you permission to speak. Go ahead. Maybe I'm going to boot you, Peter. Maybe there are out of slots to speak. Let's see. Superb. Go ahead. I think you should be good.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. I may be. I hope I'm not like out of turn or like just jumping in, just asking a random question at the wrong time. But is Voyager? Is there any talk about a NFT marketplace at all?
It was just. Oh, go ahead, Michael. I see you. Go ahead.
No, you might be you might have deeper knowledge than me. I wish we actually had Pepe on because I know he's a big Avalanche guy. But yeah, there was just news today about developing a further relationship with Avalanche, and I believe that integrates a bunch of new staking opportunities and financial products that they can bring to the platform as well as NFTs. So I'm probably the least apt to answer any more detail on the panel. So if anybody else wants to give more color than just what was in the press release, have at it.
Yeah, I think that's mostly Pepe. He's the big NFT guy.
But they're coming. That's the short answer. Is that yes, NFTs are coming to the platform soon. # soon. So
yeah, I'll tell you what. We'll put that on the back burner, and I hope you can join us next week. We'll get Pepe, who's our big NFT guy. He's involved with a couple of different projects, and he can explain it better than any of us. But hopefully you can join us next week, and we'll make sure that's one of our major topics to cover. We'll let him dive deep into it. He's away on business this week, but we'll definitely get him in next week. And if you can join us, we will certainly cover that topic, and I'll make sure I'll throw you a follow so I can DM you and get a little bit more information out to you.
Yeah, and it looks like we've got Felix trying to come up too, so hopefully he might know the answer, because he's, I believe, another right-click save aser.
Yeah, I'd love to see some VGX Hero NFTs or something like that.
That's the dream, man. That's the dream. Felix, I believe you should be good to go.
I'm trying to add him now. Pablo, I'm going to drop you down for a minute. If anything, I can always put you back up in a bit.
And also, Evie is a big NFT person too. So if she is requesting to pop up, she'd probably be a good person to talk to as well. Or Gorgo, if you prefer.
All right, it's telling me Felix can speak, but it doesn't show him as a speaker. So maybe we just need to give it a sec.
Or if you want to just shoot us a DM or a text, Felix, maybe that could suffice, but who knows? Oh, Evie's popping up here. Gorgo.
Yeah, and Superb. Also, if we don't answer everything, as Piggy said, next week, I know another thing Pepe wanted to talk about was the whole metaverse deal, and how that's incorporated as well. So if that's something you're interested in, we'll definitely be touching on that as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be fun. I was hoping to get into that tonight. I propose that Pepe and I kind of debate that a little bit back and forth, because I think that we'd like to explore what its potential is and then tackle it from the angle of, okay, well, what about this requires a blockchain, or how does a blockchain make it better or worse? So definitely tune in next week. Hopefully we can have that friendly debate on that topic. But Evie, I see I was able to add you as a speaker. Do you have any color on the AVAX stuff? Felix, sorry, we're still trying, but I don't know what's going on here.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you loud and clear.
All right, right on. Gorgo here. Hi guys. Actually, I can't add color on the Avalanche stuff. I really don't know much about it other than NFTs will be coming. But as far as like VGX, NFT or anything like that, we do have a POAP plan, and it's still in the works, and Pepe is still working on that. But if you are kind of big into NFTs, you might be familiar with POAP, perhaps. I don't know if he's still there, but there will be one for all heroes, as far as I know, and that will be distributed pretty soon, I think. Damn, that soon word. We gotta find another one.
Yeah, we're excited to get into that. The free NFT stuff. I mean, can't beat free. Right?
Yeah, it's 100% free. It just, you can, if you want to move it into your wallet or whatever, then you do have to pay gas fees. But otherwise, it can just sit in your POAP app, and that's what most people do, and then it'll just stay there forever. And it's like a little token of appreciation, of participation. Sort of, it's called what do they call them?
Yeah,
I forget what it's called. Anyway, it's cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. And Isaiah, to bring it full circle with VGX, I would imagine that once NFTs make it to the platform, there's going to be some sort of integration, VLP, VGX, something with NFTs. But who knows? Who knows? I think the unknown is the upside when it comes to Voyager. There's a lot of things that they can do, and we should all be excited about. Piggy, I saw your mic flash there for a second. Michael, I see your flashing as well.
I was just going to pop one more thing about the NFTs, or like specific NFTs to a hero. I think the biggest problem that we face as a community is a lot of our heroes are copyrighted. Like, for instance, I don't own Peppa Pig or Daddy Pig or anything like that. So if we try to profit on something like that, which is something that as a community, as the VGX heroes, we're not here for profit. We're making our own money in the crypto space, and we're cool with that. But we've got to worry about copyright infringements and all that other stuff. So for us to be able to push NFTs to the community and then have them be for sale and then have lawsuits on our hands is not something we're really looking forward to or wanting to be involved with. So that's the major complication with us trying to do like hero specific NFTs. But we are looking to do things for the community moving forward, and especially in the Discord to reward people who participate and are active in our community.
Absolutely. Thank you, CDP. Isaiah, go ahead. Let's keep it rolling. I want to shift gears, not quite yet, but at the top of the hour, we all are anxious to hear your exciting, detailed story, but want to make sure you get all the questions into us in the panel before we shift gears to the story, as well as the fun stuff, which is like, what would you do with the 100K theory crafting, financial advice, opinionated stuff? So keep it going, Isaiah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everyone being really vocal and speaking up, because there's like I said, there's still a lot of things that I need to learn. A lot of things that you guys just answered that I didn't know I had that question, but I definitely do. And so I appreciate that. One of the questions that was already answered, I believe Stone Cold answered it, was more information on the Voyager loyalty program. That was one thing that definitely caught my eye, and I wanted to hear more insight there. And so thank you for providing that. My last questions is really more about the community rather than anything else. One of the things, like, obviously we all use different aliases, and me right now I'm just myself, which is less fun, less exciting to look at on the screen. But where did that come from? Like, where's the, like, I think it's an awesome idea. It's a definitely really real lighthearted way to kind of keep everything, but I'm curious of where that theme came from. I know Floki, you kind of gave me a rundown of course how everything started, how this kind of like became what it is, but where's the background on like the specific characters, unless it is just to, of course, to so that people don't know your actual identity. I'm not really sure if that's the case, but
Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer that one and then hand it off to Aragorn for his perspective as well. Yeah, so founding this whole thing, it was an idea late May. It started in early June, but it started off with this guy called Maximus, who is VGX hero number one. He was doing the crypto Twitter role play thing way before VGX Heroes started, and I was a big fan of his. And I would reply, strength and honor to all of his posts. And then I realized, I was like, wait a second, I should make sure that he knows that I'm sincere and that I'm actually a fan. So I DM'd him, we became friends. We abbreviated it to SAH, SAW. So if you see SAW being thrown around on Twitter, that means strength and honor, to honor Maximus. So that was where the idea sparked from. As far as, why, well, for one, I want to make sure that only Maximus can be Maximus and there's no other Maximus. Well, there's that. And you touched on it, being able to be anonymous, right, and have a character or a mask, so to speak, to hide yourself, so you could empower yourself to ask the questions without feeling embarrassed. Just there's a sense of liberation of being anonymous that allows you to speak your truth. That's part of it. Another part of it is I didn't want to lose the individual in the sense of a community. You hear about, the Doge army, the SHIB army, this army, that army, where everyone's just a bunch of soldiers, and there's not much soul to it. And I think it's really important to celebrate the individual and know that everybody has their own opinion, their own set of risk management calculations, their own moral guidelines, their own interests, their own emotional reactions. So just celebrating the individual, as well as just a fun factor. You know, I want people to pick a character or a person or historical figure or their pet, whatever it is. You can be anything essentially besides yourself, ideally, that you have a personal, fun connection with. You know, I resonated so much with Maximus because that was the movie that my father took me to as a young kid. I was like, Dad, this is rated R. He's like, you need to see this movie, son. I'm like, yeah. So just the fun factor, really, and the gift play. You know, everyone loves finding that perfect GIF to the perfect tweet. It's almost a game. So being able to do that themed, I had a lot of fun with it. Um, and yeah, it creates a sense of urgency and exclusiveness as well, because the only rule to our community is no duplicates. You know, you are forever LeBron James of the VGX Heroes community, aka LeBron Gaines. And when LeBron finally shows up and says, "Hey, I want to be VGX Hero LeBron James," I'm going to say, "Oh, sorry. Actually, that character is owned by Isaiah Stone, so you're going to have to either make him an offer he can't refuse to sell him your rights, or you're just going to have to pick somebody else. Sorry, LeBron James." So that is a little context of the heroes and the name. Aragorn, go ahead and pick it up for where I left anything out.
And trust me, we have gotten some doozies of requests for names. We've had people do complete custom ones. Some people, I just think they were pulling our leg. Like, we're so props to our onboarding team. We actually have, you know, heroes that volunteer their time, you know, and help with the whole onboarding process. So everything from recruiting to once you're on Discord, getting you set up with the right channel permissions and everything, trying to make your process as seamless as possible. So if it's felt a bit clunky, you know, getting on Discord and getting all set, thank you for bearing with us. It's gone through several different iterations, and it's only gotten better, I think, with time. We recently even rolled out Sidekick access, which grants anybody access to the Discord, and then we have a process of trying to upgrade them to a hero to where they can see more channels. But anyways, that's context. Yeah, but about the heroes, how it started was simplistically, we saw everyone selling basically, and that when sentiment was down during the summer, and we were like, well, what's one way we can reverse sentiment? And then it was like me and a couple guys were like, well, maybe if we post photos of us buying. And so then we started something silly just with daily buys. And it was trying to like one up each other, see how long we could get the trend going, and then we got more people going and hashtags going. And so then if you guys see the pinned tweets, you'll see one from me, and just read through that whole thread. It's pretty funny. It just gives you some of our banter back and forth during the early days. But the reason I chose Aragorn is because I have hair that I kind of look like him, and so I not only resonate with the looks, but I also just stand so much by his character, and I'm kind of like him in real life, and I just wanted to bring that posture towards Twitter, because when people were having discussions, it wasn't polite, it wasn't pretty back and forth, and I feel like when I was my normal self before, people would dismiss or get a little bit more choosing a side one way or another. And when I became this character, it's like I transcended that in a way that people didn't know how to react to a character, and they just more honored me for the words that were in front of them rather than bias on drawing conclusions by what your profile looked like or whatever. So again, that introduced a little bit of the fun element of it. But I would say our first stance as heroes really revolved around fighting the FUD. That was one of our original hashtags and stuff. And that worked, you know, for a short amount of time, because we were painfully optimistic. Like, not to say we were maxis by any means, but we were just positive, and everyone else was negative. And it's like, why are these guys so positive? And but we realized after about a month of that when you're fighting against something, that only lasts so long, and then either you grow tired or it just kind of goes mute after a little bit. And so that's when the heroes begin to take more of a holistic shape. And we added different pillars to the movement. Like we wanted to be known about community and about education. So this space is evident of that push and the move towards education, because we want to be the most welcoming community in crypto, and also the one that educates people without a bias. So we welcome people whether they like VGX, or we pride ourselves on trying to be champions of every coin on the Voyager platform. And we've set the Discord up as such to where you can have healthy discussions on really all coins. So that's my bit.
Yeah, I'm also bald and have a huge beard too, so that's one of the reasons why I picked Floki too. Hope that answers your question.
No, that was perfect. That was good to kind of hear that, because like I said, you look on here and it's a bunch of different characters, and like I said, it's pretty awesome to see everyone's different personality kind of like show based on who they pick. And so as you can imagine, I'm a huge LeBron James fan, so that's why I'm gonna go with that name for now on. But yeah, so that was pretty much most of my questions. I see that it's 9 o'clock now, and I know we wanted to shift gears here, and so I'll let you make that call, Floki.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say is let's get some 100s going for Isaiah. Let's get him pumped up. I want him to tell us the best freaking story like we were there. Let's get some 100s, everybody. Let's go. Take a look, Isaiah. We are so excited to hear what you're going to tell us and give us the play-by-play. I'm just going to let you speak freely.
All right, man. That's a lot of pressure. But no, so as you can imagine, again, being a LeBron fan, I'm all into basketball. I've been into basketball since I was a kid, and so one of those like bucket list items has always been to go out on the basketball court. I didn't make it to the NBA. Go out on a NBA basketball court and get a chance to either shoot a three, a free throw, whatever. Obviously, the half court shot was cool, but just to be out there. And so once I even got the opportunity, and I'll go more into detail in a second, that was like checking off my bucket list right there. I was like, I'm going to be on the court. I'm going to get to take the shot in front of 20,000 people. I was like, I'm good. Whatever happens after this is just, I guess, icing on the cake. And so just to kind of give you guys an idea of where my head was at. So yeah, like I said, this whole thing has just been incredible. The opportunity was extremely random. At the time, I was just sitting there watching the Mavericks game, and I don't know if there's any Mavericks fans here, but that game, they were just getting pounded. I think they were down by like 20 or something early in the first quarter. It was my first game of the season, and so I'm just like, this is rough. Luka wasn't hitting any shots, so it was definitely not the best game to bring my girlfriend to. And so towards the end of the first quarter, some guy dressed up in Mavericks gear was kind of like lingering around our section and around our seats, kind of like walking up and down. I didn't really know what he was doing. And he ended up approaching me and my girlfriend and just really asked, he was like, hey, are you guys like, are you interested in competing for a chance to get on the court and do a promotion? I'm like, yes, obviously. Like in my head, I'm thinking we're just going to go out there. They usually have promotions that are like guess the lyric or like toss a giant Whataburger fry into the holders. And so I was like, cool, like I can toss that fry into the holder in front of people. Like there's no real skill that comes into play there. So I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So well, he told me he was like, I'm gonna have somebody come get you just before halftime so you can go into the practice gym. And I'm like, another bucket list thing, like going back into the practice gym, that's awesome. So eventually I'm just kind of like sitting there waiting, still watching the game. The Mavericks are kind of like getting a little bit closer, but not good enough yet. And then some guy with giant foam hands comes up and brings me and the girlfriend down to the practice gym, which was absolutely awesome. Like I said, being down there that close to the floor, like I felt like kind of like a big deal walking down from the seats and being like escorted through the players tunnels. They could have literally sent me back to my seats at that point, and I think I would have been like perfectly satisfied. So anyways, big foam hand guy was like walking us into the gym where I see 4 other people shooting at the hoops. So now I'm not really sure what is happening, but anything with basketball excites me. So I was like, that's cool. Someone passed me a ball and I'm just kind of like shooting around. They're like, yeah, we'll shoot some layups, free throws, take some 3-pointers. And I'm just shooting around a little bit, feeling pretty good. And like I said, I play basketball regularly, so it just kind of felt like a routine like shoot around. I will mention that the NBA 3-point line is it's only a little bit further back, but when you are shooting it and you're used to shooting a little bit closer, it feels like about a mile away. And so that was kind of tough to get used to that. And so anyways, we're shooting around for a little bit. They gather us all together and tell us that we get one practice round to make a layup, a free throw, and a 3-pointer in 30 seconds. So the one guy goes, he makes the layup right away. He hits a free throw and takes like 3 shots and then hits the 3. So he ended up getting it in about 20 seconds. I go second. I do the layup, make the free throw, miss the 3-pointer a few times before I finally got it to drop in. So I ended up in 23 seconds. So I'm like, okay, this guy like slightly beat me. And honestly, I didn't realize that that was a practice round. Afterwards, I actually told my girlfriend, I was like, oh well, that's too bad. And then they're like, oh no, you get another try. And so I'm like, oh, okay, cool, like that's awesome. And so now we go to the real challenge. The other people that participated weren't really that close; they couldn't get it in 30 seconds. So the same guy goes first. He hits a layup, hits a free throw. He missed the 3 maybe one time, and then hit it on his second shot. And so like his time was 13 seconds. So I'm just like, I look at my girlfriend and I'm like, well, damn. I was like, well, this was fun. I guess I don't have to go out there and like shoot in front of all of these people, because at this point, like the nerves were kind of like kicking in, where I was like, well, shit, like that's a lot of pressure. While yes, I could hit the shots, I could also fail completely and miserably. And so I was like, yeah, I was a little bit nervous. And so anyways, I end up going up there. I make the layup. The free throw kind of like bounces in awkwardly. And then I shoot the 3 and it goes in on the first shot. And so my time was 9 seconds, which is a really fast time to do that. And so I was really surprised that obviously I would have had to hit all of them to do that, or to even beat him in general. I don't know if I could have got a rebound and shot another one. And so then they let me know, they're like, yeah, well, you get to go out there and shoot in front of 20,000 people. So again, the nerves are starting to pick up a little bit, because I'm like, well, shit, like I really thought that this was I didn't really think as far to be like at the court yet. It was more of just thinking of like the preparation to get there. And now I'm like, well, shit, now I'm actually going to go out there and shoot. So, anyways, at this point, just to clarify, I don't even know what this is for yet. Like again, I thought I was going in there to throw Whataburger fries around, and I'm out here shooting on an NBA practice court. So it's pretty incredible. Anyways, the other people are like escorted out, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to shoot a little bit longer?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool." I'm shooting some threes, and then one of the partnership team members tells me like, "Well, you should practice your half court shot." And I'm like, "Oh, like a half court shot?" And they're like, yeah, well, you're gonna have to go shoot the free throw, the layup, the 3-pointer, and then you're gonna get a chance at a half court shot. And I'm like, okay. Honestly, I'm more comfortable with shooting the half court shot than sitting at the free throw line for 30 seconds missing shots. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So anyways, they pass me the ball at half court and I shoot it. I hit rim on the first one, and they were like, whoa, like he's actually like really close. And so they're a little bit shocked. And then they tossed me another one, and then I hit the second one. So they're all kind of like laughing. And at this point, I still don't know what I'm gonna win. And so I'm thinking like, yo, like if I hit this shot, I'm gonna walk out with a dope ass Luca jersey. I was like, maybe he'll sign it. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm really excited about that. Maybe I'll get a picture with him or something. And so then I finally asked, I'm like, so what is this even for? And the guy is like, well, it's for our new sponsor, Voyager. Um, I work in sponsorship and partnership, and so I am familiar with like the different partnerships that the Mavericks do and the Rangers and around specifically the DFW area. And so I'm like, that's dope. I was like, well, what do I win? And the person's like, well, I believe you win like $100,000 if you hit all the shots. And so he kind of said it as in like, if you hit it, like you're not going to hit it, so you don't need to worry about it, but you would get $100,000. And so as you can imagine, that kind of changed a lot for me, like nerves wise. Not in the positive way, but I was even more nervous because I'm like, there's a lot of money on the line here. And so I get a few more shots. None of them went in. They walk me out and they let me know that they're going to come get me with like 7 minutes left in the third quarter. So I'm sitting there for about 20 minutes watching the Mavericks be super average out there, and just waiting, just sitting there waiting. I text 2 of my friends who are actually on this call, and I was like, hey, I was like, I think I'm gonna do an on-court promotion. And then that's all I said. So 7 minutes in the third quarter comes by, and Big Hands guy comes back and gets me in. We walk back through the tunnel, and I'm telling my girlfriend, like, I'm like super nervous. So thankfully she was honestly there to kind of level out my emotions a little bit, because I think my anxiety would have been a little bit too high. So we walked to the other side of the arena and they start telling me the process, and now I'm waiting for the third quarter to end, standing in the tunnel watching the game, and standing like on the ground floor and looking up at 20 or 19, 20,000 people is a lot to take in. And so it definitely looks a lot different from down there. So I'm sitting there just kind of like waiting, and then some guy walks up next to me and he's like, hey, like, are you ready? And I'm like, yeah, I think so. About as ready as I can be. And he's just kind of sitting there, and I was like, yeah, sorry, like I didn't get your name. And he's like, oh, it's Steve. He's like, I'm the CEO of Voyager. And so I'm like, oh shoot, like the CEO is out here. And I'm like, Steve, an awesome guy to talk to. Had great conversations with him, but I'm just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, well, that's crazy that you guys are all here. And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, we're about to try to give away $100,000. He was like, so of course we wanted to see it. He was like, and then this is the first time we've ever done this promotion. And so I'm like, okay, well, there's Steve, who was in a relaxed, like he was like in a zip up or a pullover. The other guys were in suits, and so he just kind of stood out, looked cool. So I'm sitting there for a little bit longer, and mentally I realized I was still very nervous, and I needed to get into like a different headspace. So, well, it sounds weird, I had to get like very like overly confident in myself. And so one thing I remember telling Steve, we kind of like stopped talking for a second, and then I was like, so like, are you the one that's going to be giving me the $100,000? And he's like, yeah. He's like, if you hit it. And I said, well, like, I didn't come here to not get the money. I said, so like, once I hit the shot, I'm just letting you know I'm going to walk over to you, and I want you to set up my account. And he was just kind of like laughed, and he's like, well, he's like, I really hope that does happen. He said, we really want to give this money away. So like right then I kind of got an understanding of like who Steve was, what his intentions were, and it was all like very positive stuff. Awesome guy. Um, so anyways, the time finally comes, I get out there, and my thought was like, and I kept telling my girlfriend, I'm like, if I make the layup, we walk out of here with $2,500. If I make the free throw, that's another 7,500. The 3-pointer is like 15,000 or something like that. And so in my head, I'm like, we're at least walking out of here with 2,500. Like we're gonna redo part of the kitchen or something. And so I get out there. Let me also mention, they gave me a different ball than an NBA ball. So if you guys watch the videos and I'm missing those 3-pointers, like give me a break on that one. So anyways, I go up, I make the layup pretty easy, shoot the free throw, do the same thing that I did in the practice gym. It kind of rolled in. Cause like I said, one thing I didn't want is to make the layup and then sit at the free throw line with 28 seconds while people watched me. That would have been very embarrassing. So I was definitely nervous of that, and then nervous of the 3-pointer. And so like, if you guys watch the whole video, I missed a 3-pointer like 4 times or something like that. Again, in my defense, I'm just going to sit here and make excuses. The guy was like standing next to me and handed me the ball, like very out of rhythm for me. And so it was just kind of like awkward. And so anyways, missed 3 or 4 of them. And then the DJ Poison Ivy was like, you got like 3 seconds, 2 seconds, whatever, down from 4. And so I get the ball and I'm like, well, I got to calm down. I get one shot. And so I dribble it and then I shoot it, and thank the Lords, the last shot went in. I absolutely lose it for a second. I'm just like, holy shit, like that's $25,000 we're about to go home with. And so I'm like running around. I already start pointing to Voyager, and I'm like, hell yeah, right? Sorry to steal your term, Stone Cold, but yeah. So I'm like, turn up, this is awesome. And so then the DJ is like, hey, like you actually have to shoot the half court shot now, and I completely forgot about that. So mentally, I wasn't even there for the half court shot. I was just thinking like, let's make it close, because we of course see people on not top 10 all the time just throwing it into the stands, and I was like, I don't want to do that. One thing I do remember is I looked back at my girlfriend's, like her cousin was sitting somewhere there, and I was gonna wave to her, but she wasn't in her seat, so she missed all of this. But whatever. And so like I looked back and she wasn't there, and so then they're like, all right, well, go shoot it. And so I shoot it, and honestly, once it like let go, like I've shot enough half court shots with like buddies from like college and stuff, and it felt really good. And so that's why I kind of was like crouched down like that, is because it like right when it left my hand, I was like, this might really go in. And sure enough, it hit backboard and went straight in. And so when I turned around, there was part of me that was like, holy shit, like this is not only like a lifetime goal of to be out here and shoot it. I was like, but like hearing the crowd just go completely bananas, I was just like, this is it. Like this is life goals right here. And so yeah, I turned around and like I said, I'm into like sponsorship and partnership, and that's what I do for a living right now. And so I knew the first thing was like Voyager. And so that's where you guys see like me like pointing to the Voyager, I guess doing my own rendition of like Cam Newton Superman, where it was just like Voyager just set up this whole thing for me. And it's funny because people on Twitter like reached out and were like, "Oh, I know that whole thing was like set up," which I'm just like, "How do you set up that? I don't really know." I feel like if I set up a half court shot and to make a 3-point whenever, I'd probably be running the backcourt with Luca, like getting a lot of money. But yeah, and so like they're like, and it looked a little fishy because he pointed right to the sponsor, like this was all a marketing ploy. And I'm like, first off, sponsorships are marketing ploys, but don't go too deep into that. But I'm like, they're also giving me $100,000. I'm like, I'll text Steve, like, bro, what do you want me to do? Like, I'll do absolutely anything you want. Like, I jokingly told him that I would get a tattoo if I hit it. And they've been mentioning it the last couple of days. And I'm like, dude, I'm not actually getting a tattoo, but that's fine. So anyways, if you see in the video, like after I made it, pretty calm. And then I kind of lose it for a little bit. I've heard that I ignored several high fives there. Didn't even notice those people existed after I made the shot, honestly. I was looking at the stands and my girlfriend was sitting over there. So I was kind of trying to like find where she was at. And I'm just like, didn't know that those people existed. The cool thing caught eyes with Porzingis. And so there's one video where like I'm going over there. He's like approaching me kind of, and he was going to like dap me up. But security came and like stopped me because I pulled my mask down, which I didn't mention. So the mask thing, I pulled my mask down after being super COVID conscious the entire time. I pulled it down because in my head, after like pointing to Voyager, I was like, my friends are not gonna think this was actually me. So I pulled my mask down and I randomly decided that saying this is my face was the most appropriate thing for me to really tell my buddies, like, bro, this was literally me that just was on this video that's gonna be everywhere. I'm like, this is the actual face that you're used to. And so and shoot, if anybody wants to like sign me up for a commercial or something, I'll be like, that's cool too. But yeah, so like I said, the Porzingis thing, they stopped that because I had my mask down. And so like I'm bouncing out to the locker room with Steve and the rest of his crew, and they're just obviously in disbelief, and so am I. There's actually a really funny video that I'll end up sending you guys where Steve is like really cheesing like like a child when he's like walking off the court, and it's like the most genuine thing that I've ever seen because he's just so happy to even like be there. And so I'm like, this whole thing was awesome. So anyways, we went to the back, took some pictures with Steve and my girlfriend and the DJ and a few people. And it didn't really even set in. I'm just like, I know when I got to the back, I was just like, holy shit, like looked at my girlfriend and I was like, what just happened? And we're just like amazed. We end up going back to the seats, and a few minutes in, I'm a pretty realistic person, and a few minutes in, I turned to her and I'm like, this is my peak, right? And she's just kind of like laughing. I'm like it won't ever get better than this for me right now. I was like, you are seeing me in my peak form right now. Like that's what just happened. And so like as you can imagine, after that, like people in the stadium or the arena were like giving me high fives, like all that stuff, which was really cool. But then the days following, it was just like incessant, like phone calls, messages, a lot of stuff on social media. You guys go really heavy on social media, and so like my stuff was definitely absolutely on fire for quite a few days, just on a lot of like VGX hero stuff. So like shout out to you guys on that. Got my engagement up quite a bit. But yeah, and then like I said, at work, they ended up letting everyone know at work in like our company huddle. And so responding to a lot of emails there, a lot of like messages, a lot of people wanting me to tell the story. This is probably the most in detail I've told the story. So I think after days and days of actually telling it, I'm trying to piece all of it together to give you guys like the full idea and the full feeling of what I was going through. But like I said, I think overall the whole thing was just an absolute blessing. And so I appreciate, like, of course, getting the opportunity, which fate in general of having me go out there. Shout out to the other people that didn't make it in 9 seconds. So I'm really happy about that. And shout out to the ball for going in the hoop where it should be. And so, like I said, it was definitely something that like I could have never really truly imagined a situation like this to happen. And so just definitely very, very grateful of the opportunity and everything that's hopefully going to come from that. But yeah, so that's my story. And like I said, the days following, it's just been like a lot of messages, a lot of things, and then really just trying to figure out what to do, right? Because a week ago, it was less than a week ago, I did not have $100,000 in crypto, and now I do, and I'm just like, well, shoot, I didn't prepare for this. I wasn't like, I only know so much, and so like even today's conversation was very huge. I actually, like, it was crazy because they actually just sent me the money today, and so then I go into like the Voyager app and the money is there, and I'm just like, it really started to hit me that I'm just like, well, shit, now I need to really buckle up and figure out what I'm doing, what I should do, where I should be like diversifying this to put it into either other things or move some to the stocks or pay off things. And so, not sure if it's a good time, but I was really curious if anyone has like some suggestions on what I should do. Not saying I'm going to be like, yeah, whoever says tells me what to do. If they give me an idea, that I'm automatically going to do that. It's not as much of that, but more of just like, I'm just curious to hear what other people might suggest, and see what we can go from there. Maybe something that I'll have more questions about.
Well, first and most important, did you get Steve to sign you up like you wanted, like you joked about?
Bro, Steve was so lit. Like, he was so hyped throughout the entire thing that I never got to the point of doing it. Because I actually downloaded it before I took the shot, when we were sitting there, because they were giving away $100 like voucher. And so I actually like already downloaded it and stuff. And so I had it all set up. That was more of like the first thing that came to mind was like, you're giving me the money. And he's like, all right, dude. And then obviously, like, once we got back there, that was like the last thing on his mind was like, what happens like right now. And so
Yeah.
yeah, did not get him to do that, but we are friends on Twitter and like LinkedIn, so that's my boy now.
Well, he did pop on earlier, and we DM'd, and he said he had to run, but he says, hey, I'm glad you were able to make it in the spaces tonight.
Nice. That's awesome.
So Floki, unfortunately, is having some technical difficulties right now with spaces. He's going to try to get back in, but he said that before we dig into what we would all do with the $100,000, he said to ask you about the convo with Steve for the good moments.
Yeah, and so that was really just the conversation, based on like when I was first walking out there and just telling him like, hey, dude, like, you're gonna have to give me $100,000. Like, I hope you guys are like actually prepared to give it to me. Did I think I was like really going to have this guy give me $100,000? Like, not exactly. Like I said, mentally, I think I needed to get into that space because I was still looking around at all of those people and getting really nervous. The DJ, the host, that was actually her first game hosting, and so she was also slightly nervous. Thankfully, we worked together when we worked in the WNBA. We worked together, and so we kind of knew each other there, which was comforting. But then, honestly, like, talking to Steve prior to it, it brought down my anxiety a little bit, because just having a conversation with somebody, and not thinking about how many people are there, I think that really like helped out. And honestly, like, he was very supportive, and he was like, dude, I want you to hit this shot. And then talking to like the partnership crew that was in the gym, they were like, dude, you're gonna hit the shot. And I'm just like, you guys have so much faith. I was like, I don't know why, but apparently it worked out if they would have placed some bets on me.
That's pretty funny, because I could pretty much picture that, because having spent time with Steve and his wife at the NASCAR track, it's very familial. So it's probably like he had that like dad pride in you, even though he just met you, because it's very much like that. Watching him watch Landon is probably funnier than watching. It's probably more fun than watching Landon actually race the race, is watching Steve react to Landon racing the race, because he's got that just proud dad vibe the entire time. He's just sitting there beaming, just totally taken in the moment, super humble. It's great to see.
That's exactly what it was. He just seems so down to earth, and that's why I was like I said, he wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing his zip up, and was just like just a casual conversation. And I was like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm Steve. He's like, I'm the CEO. And I'm like, oh shoot, like, let me change my I guess my tone towards you. Like, I was like, that's awesome, man. And so yeah, like I said, very, very down to earth guy, and just a nice little conversation prior, which helped me kind of like ease into everything.
Nice. Well, Floki, I see we got you back now. I added you back as a speaker. I think Sun Tzu can add you back as a co-host if you need it. But you want to check your mic, make sure you're working?
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Nice.
Perfect. We got you loud and clear. So I know you want to get to the audience to get some questions towards Isaiah. Isaiah also had a question for the panel about what they do with the 100K. So I'll defer to you as to the order of operations you want to tackle it with. But
yeah,
we held down the fort while you were indisposed.
I'm gonna have to go back to the replay. Thank you, Crypto Airborne, for recording this again. Yeah, while we're all super excited, that was an awesome story. Oh, you can go ahead.
Sorry, Jen. Yeah, thank you. You just.
All right, yeah. So while we're all excited, excellent story, Isaiah. Thank you so much. I wanted to open up the floor to our audience to ask you any questions that are on their mind before we get into the financial theory fun. What would you do with 100K crafting session? So please, guys, step up, get to stepping up, and ask Isaiah some questions.
All right. So while you were gone, Floki, we got Felix finally came up as a speaker, so his seems to be working out. And we also had Peter and Pablo, and I see we've got CDP with his hand raised. So Felix, are you on stage on purpose? And if so, unmute yourself and go ahead and go for it.
No, I just left it on so that it wouldn't kill the spaces again like it did last time. But I could touch a little bit on the 100K question. You know, obviously not financial advice, not fucking around, but it's a big opportunity. You know, so I know it's definitely kind of nerve wracking of trying to make the best decision. I would definitely preach a little bit of patience. Don't make any rash decisions. And then what I personally would do is I would not sell it off. I would keep the one Bitcoin, and anything above that, if you wanted to play into the altcoins, into the upcoming altcoin season, that might not be a bad idea. And then you can sell off the top and then redistribute back into some long-term plays. That definitely sounds like a good idea. But I think really, really thinking of your financial future, at least holding one Bitcoin is a really good idea.
All right, thanks. Peter Griffin, let's go to you next. You got questions for Isaiah, and then I think we'll do a round robin of everybody's thoughts on the 100K. But in the meantime, if anybody's got some good questions for Isaiah.
No, I didn't have any specific questions. I just kind of wanted to respond to the 100K question that was volleyed out there. But that was an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing that in detail.
Let's focus on the questions for Isaiah first, and then we'll shift to the financial theory. So if anyone has questions for Isaiah, let's get through those.
Yeah, Isaiah, the question I have for you is how has Voyager been to work with, since, I guess since you were introduced to them and up until the point the money was deposited today?
Yeah, man, it's been awesome. They actually, of course, the weekend made everything a little bit slower. And so they reached out to me so I hit the shot on Thursday. They reached out to me on Friday and was like, hey, like just actually the Mavericks team actually hit me up first. It was like, hey, like we need this information and then we'll get it sent over to Voyager. On Monday, Voyager reached out to me, sent me a few emails, needed, of course, like some documentation, the W-9s, the ID, stuff like that. And then they were like, yeah, it's going to take about like 10 days to get the money. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, that's not really a big deal. And then they messaged me today, a couple days after, and was just like, actually, it's ready now. And so ended up opening my account and then seeing that I have now $100,000 worth of Bitcoin sitting in my account. And so yeah, they were really awesome, really responsive to all the emails that I was sending out. And so it was just definitely a really quick operation. And yeah, they were awesome.
Wow, you got 100,000 in Bitcoin? That's so cool, man. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
and from the VGX side, that's some baller shit to just put $100,000 worth of Bitcoin in your account. That's amazing.
Yeah, man. It was the whole thing was pretty crazy. Of course, like I said, I think knowing that it was going to be that much was like, that was one thing, but then specifically like seeing it in an account, I was just like, holy shit, like that's that's more money that's in my bank account. So I'm like, I was like, yeah, that's a lot of money. And so, no, like I said, as far as like working with them, they've been absolutely awesome.
That's pretty cool too, because being new to the space, the one thing I'll tell you to put it in perspective for you is there's a lot of people that have had $100,000 at some point in their lives, but looking at it the other way, now that you're in the crypto side of the world, you probably got what, like 1.6, 1.7 Bitcoin, and please don't tell me the specifics, but mathematically you probably ended up somewhere around there. Just know that there's only potentially ever 21 million people that can say that they own one Bitcoin at a time. So
Yeah.
there's, I think, 46 million millionaires on Earth. There isn't even enough Bitcoin that will ever be existence for every millionaire on Earth to ever own half of one, never mind a whole one. And you're sitting here with a little over 1.5. So that's a huge accomplishment in and of itself. So not to be the old man Bitcoiner in the room, but I do agree with Felix that I would never get off of that position of being a whole coiner. And if you want to diversify the rest, we'll get into the financial theory side in a bit. But that accomplishment of being a whole coiner is nothing to be taken lightly. And I think it's even more impactful in Bitcoin terms than in the US dollar terms. Because $100,000 is cool, but $100,000 this year to next year is going to feel completely different. Whereas that
Right.
Bitcoin is going to feel even stronger from one year to the next. So that's a super huge accomplishment. Most people work and work and work and work just to accomplish the feat of becoming a whole coiner. Sorry, CDP, I know I stole your thunder. You've been patiently sitting there with your hand raised the whole time. So let's go to you, bud.
Thank you, Michael. I don't disagree with anything Michael has said. You understand that BTC, Bitcoin, is the big brother of the community. So personally, I would recommend that you can futz around with anything above and beyond that one Bitcoin. But honestly, I think you're going to set yourself up long-term, life-changing long-term if you can hold that just one Bitcoin for as long as you can, pending any financial hardships or anything that has, comes your way, which I hope it doesn't, honestly. You sound super intelligent and you sound like you're in a good space for yourself, and we're so welcoming and happy to have you as a part of this community. My question is a little on the outside of things, but when we started to see the tweets and you making the shots, and you hit Sports Center, you hit everything else. I saw some dude, and I can't give you his Twitter handle, but he said that you may or may not have some basketball experience in your repertoire. So I was just curious because he said that you and him used to take half-court shots all the time. So I was just and he may have been a fudster. I don't know if he was seeking attention or not. But do you have any basketball experience? Going back to before the shot, and if you could speak on that, I was just curious because I remember being in college and futzing around with my buddies and taking half-court shots to determine what we were going to do that night for partying or educational purposes or whatever, this, that, and the other thing. Have you taken half-court shots before?
Yeah, can you guys still hear me? So my headphones died, so.
Loud and
Yeah,
clear,
we can
yep.
hear you. Were you
Loud
able to
and
hear the
clear, buddy.
question?
Yeah, I did. So yeah, I definitely have some basketball background. It was probably one of my friends that were just saying that, taking half court shots. He might be the one that's actually one of them that's on the call, which is funny. So yeah, so we used to play in college, not for like the university, not like I went to Central Michigan, but I used to play club basketball there, and so we were literally at our rec center pretty much every day, and sometimes instead of class. So don't tell my mom if she's ever listens to this, but yeah, so we definitely took a lot of half court shots, a lot of just kind of like BSing, especially when you're there in the summer and there's not a lot of people. You just do whatever just to keep yourself entertained. And so the half court shots aren't something that's like, I don't really think that there's an overall like skill of it, right? I think, but playing basketball and understanding how to shoot it and things like that, and playing enough, you kind of have a better chance to make it than somebody else. And so I think on that day it just kind of got there's definitely some karma that I cashed in on that day. But yeah, I've definitely played basketball my entire life, and so the other 3 shots, that's why I was a little bit more nervous about, especially like the free throw and 3-pointer, because it's like I play basketball like all the time. So like what I didn't want to do is like embarrass myself doing something that I should be able to do. And so the nerves were definitely a little bit higher there than the half court shot, because the half court shot was just like you're either gonna make it or not, but nobody's gonna like judge you. And so when I'm sitting there missing all those 3-pointers, all I'm thinking in my head is like, damn, I'm like, my friends are gonna be like, what the hell is he missing these 3-pointers for so much? And I definitely received that. Even after hitting the half court shot, it was still like, yeah, but what happened on that 3-pointer though? I'm like, damn, man, like I don't know why they had to even include that in the video, but yeah, like I said, definitely have a decent amount of basketball experience. Nothing like professional or not even like collegiate, but at least enough experience to get out there and not completely embarrass myself.
That's awesome, buddy. Thanks for the background on that. I could tell based on the form of the half court shot that you spent at least a little bit of time practicing that in your lifetime, and I love it, and we're so proud of you. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that.
All right, Skier, I see you've been patiently waiting down there. How about you, bud?
Hey,
what's
up?
your question?
You guys hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Right on. Hey, so congratulations, Isaiah. That's a huge accomplishment that I don't think any of us will ever be able to match, at least in this lifetime. My question is, and I apologize if it's already been covered, but I'm just curious on what your background is as far as crypto goes. Have you been holding any? Have you bought any crypto at all in your life? And if you hadn't been exposed to this world, what was your perception of it from the outside looking in?
Yeah, so I definitely I'm saying like in 2017, I was at work and like a few of me and a few of the buddies at work were just like, man, like we need to jump in on this, right? And so again in 2017, keep in mind Ethereum was pretty cheap compared to like what it is now, and Bitcoin was right around the 10 to 15,000. I don't know how long everyone's been in it, but like that was a time where it went from like 4,000 all the way up to like 19,000, and then it came down. And so I, of course, unfortunately bought it when it was going up, but then didn't like unload it. And so like I kept it, and so I'm like it went down to like 15, down to 14, 13, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna bounce back up. And then that's where I ended up losing it, like I mentioned, like $50 or something, nothing serious. I think I bought into Litecoin too, and like made like $500 off that, and so it kind of counteracted each other. But yeah, so I definitely ended up pulling out after I got like $50 down, just because I was like, man, like this isn't going anywhere. Very naive at that point, and so then obviously the last couple of months and last couple of years, I've been keeping an eye on it, but it's always been like, well, when it dips down far enough for me to feel comfortable, then I'm going to put money into it. The unfortunate thing is that doesn't always happen, and for your guys' sake and for my sake now, I hope it doesn't happen, of course, where it drops down where people are like buying in because it's so low, because obviously then at that case we're going to be losing a lot of money. And so yeah, I'm definitely like fortunate to obviously have the money in it now, and also fortunate just to be back in the game, right? And so it's really tough to make that investment and jump in there and like start putting your money towards something that at that time I'm not really as knowledgeable about. But now it's nice to get in the game, start learning, and obviously have a blessing of a head start on a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just wanted to also echo the advice given earlier. Hold that one Bitcoin and plan to hold it long term, man. Like, a lot of people work a very long time to accumulate week by week or with paycheck by paycheck, and you just got a huge head start. So diversify after that Bitcoin. But yeah, man, HODL gang, congrats.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
All right, Aragorn, I see you're up next. Go for it.
Hey, On a quick side note on that Bitcoin, with Voyager, you earn interest. So you're actually compounding more than a Bitcoin. So huzzah. On the question route, so obviously you, your family, friends, whatever, have now gotten a lot of exposure to Voyager. What has that process been like in terms of, were they even familiar, your friends and whatever, with crypto? And if so, what has been that journey, either them signing up, asking you questions, getting involved, whatever, however you want to take that question?
Yeah, so my brother has dabbled a little bit when Dogecoin was like kind of like hitting off, just like everyone just kind of threw a little bit of money into it. And so I think he might have made a little bit, a couple hundred off that, but nothing like extreme. He actually convinced my mom to buy it when it was like a little bit higher than what I would have advised. And so since this has happened, she keeps telling me, she's like, "Well, I lost $100 on that Dogecoin, so like, good luck." And I'm like, yeah, I think Doge was a little bit more volatile than what I think this would be. And so yeah, they definitely, like I said, have a little bit of experience. Like I said, I have some friends that joined this call, and I think might at some point dive deeper into it, whether it's joining the Discord or whatever it is, just to get more familiarized with it, because it's definitely like this community as a whole, but even like my close friends too, of course, like be able to have those conversations and see what their insight is, and see how deep we want to actually like dive into everything here. I think is going to be really important for me, of course. And I think that's obviously how you build larger communities like this, is just from having those close knit friends that you can ask those questions. And that's one thing like I appreciate with you guys, is that it sounds like no matter what question I ask, I don't think there's going to be judgment of the dumb question. Granted, you guys are all going to know that I will be LeBron Gaines, so you guys will know it's Isaiah. But outside of that, I think it's definitely good to be here and be able to like ask some of those tougher questions.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Peter Griffin, I saw you popped up. You had a question for Isaiah?
Yeah. Not to bring up something that everybody hates, but it's something I'm curious about. The tax man. Have you talked to anybody? Has Voyager helped put you in contact with somebody? Have you brought this up? Are you taxed on the value when you receive it, or is it something where you don't have to pay taxes until you sell? Just very curious about that.
Me too, man. Me too. They didn't quite set me up with somebody to talk through that yet. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to get it today, and so I was expecting that I was going to have like 10 days to look more into the specifics of like how the taxing works out. Reach out to like my accountant and things like that, like our family accountant. But it just showed up today, and so now I'm like, well, I guess all those questions, I'm going to find out a little bit quicker exactly how that tax situation really goes on. Because honestly, like when the Mavericks, I believe they were supposed to give me more information on the exact taxing of like a prize and stuff like that. I didn't get all of that, and so unfortunately, that was just kind of something that after I hit the shot, we all just kind of like stormed out of there and didn't specifically talk about it. But it's definitely something that I need to look into. And like I said, the money came a little bit faster than I was expected. But yeah, it's definitely on my list of things to do. So
yeah, it's definitely
go ahead.
something worth looking into and budgeting accordingly. You'll have to see it. A lot of it will depend on your personal situation. I wouldn't recommend that we get too far into it on a recorded spaces, but we could always talk offline. And I know somebody else that won a fair amount of cryptocurrency from another outfit, so we could hopefully give you some insight. Pablo Escobar, I saw you pop up. Are you gone already?
Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely wouldn't do anything with that Bitcoin position until you talk to somebody that's knowledgeable. That would be awesome if they don't tax you until you sell it, and then you could just let it sit there. But I have no idea about that. But the one thing that I was going to say, if we're going to get to that part where we're talking about the $100,000, is my strategy would be keep the Bitcoin, keep at least one Bitcoin, like they were saying, and become a navigator on Voyager, and start to experiment with that, because like they were saying, there's only X amount of people that can ever become a full coin Bitcoin holder. Based on the numbers currently at like 300 million, there can only be 15,000 of us navigators. And I'm working on my second navigator position. I know that some of you guys that got in early have like several navigator positions. So at some point, the supply shock that Stone Cold keeps talking about is going to kick in as we see that they're always working behind the scenes, and they're surprising us left and right with different partnerships. One of these things is going to stick, and it's going to send it to the moon, and I'm going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good perspective too to talk about how many navigators there are, because everybody always talks about how many hole pointers there can be, and there's not really enough traction yet in the VLP program for enough people to really think about that in those terms. But it's a very good way to look at it in terms of the supply shock, and in terms of the way that they're onboarding customers and eventually, marketing. Steve's a very big proponent of this happy path where people get into the app, kind of without any impediments, without any friction. So they want this frictionless onboarding process to get in and do whatever it is that the customer wanted to do. And then once they're onboarded, then introduce them to the VLP and the tokens. So I know that there's always a bigger push to put VGX more in everyone's face, and I'm sure that in due time that'll come. But Pablo's math checks out. There's not enough VGX to go around, especially when you look at the number of customers that are being onboarded. So thanks for bringing that perspective, Pablo. And I think now with about 10 minutes left, I think it's probably a good time for us to go ahead and maybe round robin through the panel as far as what our thoughts are. And before we get any further into it, just to preface this, obviously none of this is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. We are not here to give advice. We're not legally able to, nor should anything that we say be taken as gospel. But we're here to entertain, and we're here to help educate and kind of point you in the right direction to have at least a knowledge base to kind of make your own decisions. But please do not take anything that you hear on here as gospel, and know that none of this is financial advice. And we are not employed by or directly affiliated with Voyager in any way. So we do not speak for them in any capacity either. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and kick it around. I'd be curious to hear, Frankie, we haven't heard from you for a while, so why don't you go ahead and walk through what you would do if you were Isaiah right now.
Well, did Sun Tzu have anything first, or sorry, I saw his hand up.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Did you have a hand up, Sun Tzu?
I did.
All right, let's go for you then. Sorry about that.
No, appreciate it. So on the tax thing, just a quick plug for Michael. He turned me on to a service called TaxBit. Again, I'm not suggesting you go ahead and go with that. Wait to get more information from Voyager or Mavericks or whoever. But TaxBit has been super helpful. If you do need a service in the future to monitor that stuff. And then as far as the 100,000, if it were me, I am fully on board with keeping that one Bitcoin at least. And then, it all depends on your personal preference with the rest. I would say that it's not a bad idea to get at least to the 5,000 VGX, because the jump from 5,000 to 20,000 might be a bit much for some people. But with the 5,000, you're at least getting that additional 1% on the BTC. And if you were to allocate some into USDC just to save as dry powder, as they say, just to hold and wait and watch until you're ready to go into something else, you'll get an additional 1% on that as well. And then, again, in the lines of waiting to find out what your tax purposes are, if you are able to sell some of that Bitcoin at a low tax bracket, depending on how much you believe in Voyager as a company, I think the stock is a great play as well. It's shot up over the past few days. Not huge to where it was, at its all-time high. But if you're looking to diversify outside of crypto, but keep it in the same space as a crypto stock, the Voyager stock has been projected to do pretty well also. So that's what I would do. I'd keep the Bitcoin, put some in USDC, at least get yourself on some level of the VLP, and see where you go from there.
That's great. Thank you, Sun Tzu. All right. So now over to you, Frankie. Going once, going twice.
I'll take it since I also start with an F as I'm Floki.
All right, go for it, Floki.
Yeah, I would concur with the idea of putting some of it into VGX. I do think the Navigator tier might be a little bit overkill for you if you're really looking to diversify, especially if you want to keep that one whole Bitcoin, which I think is just a cool thing to be able to say and a smart play. Of course, keeping that whole Bitcoin. But yeah, at a minimum, the entry level 500 VGX token count will boost your Bitcoin. I think the 5,000 VGX token is appropriate. That's something that I would do. I know 1% feels small, but if you look at it compared to Bitcoin, what Bitcoin is like 5 point something percent interest, you add another 1%, that's actually a 20% boost. If you think about it from that perspective. So I highly recommend at least 500 coins. I think everyone should own 500 coins, VGX coins. I don't care who you are. But I think 5,000 seems appropriate for you. As far as other coins and other things like that, I am a huge fan of the passive income. So if you are looking at other coins, I suggest starting with those that earn you interest. And make sure you understand what those interest minimums are to start accumulating the interest, right? Because as soon as you do that, you know that your money's going to work for you versus other coins where there is no interest and some of them might earn interest down the line. It's really up to you to buy and to sell versus just putting the money away in something that's going to start accumulating you interest. I think is a big play. So yeah, obviously just go down the line. Ethereum makes the most sense to me just because of the synergy with the VLP program. And other than that, I can't really recommend other coins besides the ones that accumulate interest because that's what I'm all about. And don't listen to me, by the way. I'm just a Viking. So what else? It was touched on stocks. I don't know if you have a Roth account, but that's my favorite place to buy my Voyager stock because, you know, if I want to, I could swing trade it without tax consequences, and I know it's going to be a long-term hold anyway. So if you're not utilizing your Roth account, I highly recommend using it for Voyager stock. And most importantly, above all else, get your girlfriend something nice. Got to. That's all I got.
I've definitely heard that a few times, and she'll definitely get something nice. So I'll have to keep you guys in the loop.
Thanks for that, Floki. All right, let's go Aragorn and CDP, and then I'll go last because people tend to not talk after I talk.
All right, I'm going to be the boring kind of budgeting person to talk through logically things. So I would say first, what are your needs? All right, make sure your needs are taken care of and that all that basic talk, no credit card debt, all that, whatever, wipe it out and make sure that it makes sense, solving your needs. And then after that, just look again at just your overall investing strategy, where your short-term, mid-term, long-term, and then set up your crypto or whatever general investing strategy around that. So like I know for me, I know I need it to be more growth right now just because I have a lower amount of capital. So I put 50% of my stuff in more mid-cap things. I put 10% towards high risk and 40% towards bigger things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, yada, yada. So for yourself, just decide how do you want to play that. So, if you go the 100,000 and kind of divide that, well, it sounds like if you go the Bitcoin route, the whole coin, well, that puts 60% in large cap, and then from there, I would say maybe a 30-10, from there. So maybe 30% towards, whatever mid cap play, if that's what you still want it to grow and appreciate over time. So again, a mid cap play for someone in my shoes would be VGX, just looking at the market cap and what the others have shared about VLP. And then, the 10%, depending on if you want to be either safe or aggressive. If you want to go safe, just keep it in USDC. I mean, that'll be earning 9% interest or more, and you have it there on the sidelines, and you can basically just use Voyager as your checking or savings account there, and you can pull it out if you need to buy something nice. So honestly, given that you might need some flexibility and stuff right now with that cash, I would just keep that 10% or whatever in USDC. So that's my take on all that.
All right. Thank you, Aragorn. CDP, love of my life. What you got, bud?
Hello. So for me, it's I know a part of it is your financial situation, right? Like if you're sitting debt free, then you can be a little bit more exploratory in terms of what you're going to do for the next couple of months. You want to go to Twitter sentiment, and you can really kind of judge that there's kind of two I don't know, motives of operation here. There's people who are concerned about tax regulations for the next year who may want to decrease their position before the new year so that in case something happens regulatory, that they're not going to be subject to future tax charges. I will 100% tell you that I would hold that one BTC. If you want to get exploratory about it in terms of where that number is going to grow versus where that number is going to drop in a bear market, you can talk to me about that offline. You can talk to us in the Discord. We'll happy to, just kind of walk that through with you. But again, I spoke on it earlier, and I would definitely hold that one BTC because you are so much at an advantage versus the average person to hold one BTC when there's only 21 million available. There's some differentiants in the peer. God, I can't even talk anymore. But there's so much different subject in terms to how long this bull run is going to run. There's, like I said, December could be a target. February could be a target. I would wipe out my debt if I were you, because I feel like that is a huge position for people who have invested in VGX to this point. And when I read Twitter sentiment, it's the people who are most, just crazy about price action on the day-to-day are people who are over-invested in the coin. And I don't want them to be over-invested in the coin. I just want them to know that at some point in the near future, this coin is going to explode. But I don't want you to have to eat ramen every day for the rest of your life. I'm sorry. I want you to have a quality of life that's your quality of life that you're going to be satisfied for. I worry because, it's bear market, it's bull market. You can literally sit in a deficit for 2.5 to 3 years because you bought the top on a coin. And then you're sitting there and you're the people who are flooding us on a daily basis because you bought the top. I don't want you to be that person. So it's a couple things that I'm really trying to preach is that VGX as a token, get yourself your 500. It's, given your current position, you are not going to fail buying 500 VGX. And if you want to have your setup be one Bitcoin, 500 VGX, so you can get that interest all the way through, and then the rest in USDC so you can get that interest, perfectly fine by me. But there's some other things to think about with the Voyager platform. They're trying to add stocks. So, when I purchased my VGX, it was after Robinhood went down after the whole Doge debate, and they canceled everything, and everybody jumped on to Voyager, and that's when I jumped onto Voyager, right? I was like, okay, clearly Robinhood can't handle what's going on here in terms of crypto, which is my preferred investment strategy. So I want to go to the publicly traded platform that is on stock exchanges, likely to be to NASDAQ at some point. They're honest. They are doing everything right on the front end. And yeah, it really sucks right now because you're watching other altcoins, do their thing, and we're sitting here and we're basically at the point where we're capitulating. And I don't know. I approve the safety. I really want to see Voyager as a platform succeed, and so I don't want to play with anybody else's money, but for me, I hold the BTC. I hold the one BTC because 10 years from now, you're going to be looking pretty. 500 VGX, so you can get trading rewards if that's something that interests you moving forward. If nothing else, you're getting interest. But understand that Voyager as a platform is looking to add stocks to the platform. And I'm just hoping and praying that VGX will be a token that can be used on both platforms and can survive and maybe thrive in a bear market. So it's really hard because, there is a triage. You've got your major coins, and then you've got your alt mid caps, and then you've got your small caps, and then it's the brokerage and exchange platform tokens that trickle down and will be the last ones to hit. But I really, 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 really think that the VGX token can be the lifeblood of this platform moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Piggy. That was very thorough and helpful. All right, Daniel Finance, I see you joined the party, bud. We'll come to you before we close with the night. But the question was, Isaiah obviously is the winner of the half court shot 100K from Voyager at the Mavericks Arena there on that first home game after the big announcement, and we are floating the hypothetical, obviously not as financial advice, but what would you do if it were you with the 100K? He won it in Bitcoin, just for context.
Oh man, yo, you got what? How do you get him? Holy, wait, so it's sorry, it's Isaiah.
Welcome,
here, right?
yes, welcome.
Oh man, it's great to see. Oh, what a shot. I mean, I just remember seeing that clip a few times. I mean, congrats first and foremost. If I won $100,000 in Bitcoin, what would I do? Oh man, you're put in a tough position here. I mean, obviously it depends on your outlook of cryptocurrency. If you're a believer in it, obviously you can hold it, but hey, I mean, you just won 100K. There's no reason for you not to buy something nice for yourself, and I don't know whether that be a vacation or, I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with 100,000, but it depends on what you're into. I as a person with a finance related YouTube channel, I mean, I think it's a smart decision to put it into some form of, whether it be stocks or, if you're a believer in crypto. But yeah, I mean, congrats. That's kind of my piece.
All right. Sorry about that. I was just approving. We had one more speaker request from Bill fucking Murray, which I think you have to say it because it's the whole title of his Twitter handle. So, Bill Murray, what you got, bud?
Murray's in here too.
Hey, BFM here. What's up, guys? Hey, Isaiah, congratulations. Welcome to the family. You've been baptized by fire and you've passed your first test. So, awesome position to be in. You know, I'll keep this kind of brief. I think one thing that should be mentioned, I don't know the answer on this, but obviously, something everyone should be thinking about is taxes. You know, when you liquidate, when you go from one asset to another, there are tax implications. And whether this has been answered or not, I might have missed it, but you know, I don't know if you necessarily owe, if taxes, if there's no, you know, that 100K is yours clean and there's no taxes due until you trade. But those are things that you want to answer and take into account. And then, you know, I think everybody here has really offered some great advice, kind of on specifics of different directions you can go and how to chop it up and look at it. But, you know, while you kind of immerse yourself in this new world and get your bearings, I think one of the most important things to understand is just the immense volatile nature of this asset class. And you know, to be prepared for those huge swings. In my 4 years that I've been here, the one thing that I've really learned as a trader and an investor is you always want to hold some dry powder, because you never really know when those opportunities are going to come. And so, you know, in a raging bull market, that dry powder may be, you know, 10, 15, 20%, something like that, or lower, right? But as things get overheated, you know, you may want to start kind of building up that dry powder a little bit more. So all things to think about. And the biggest piece of advice that I would have for you, outside of, I think, all of the kind of more specific recommendations everybody gave, is in the 4 years I've been through this, you know, I jumped in like summer of 2017. So it was kind of the midpoint of that parabolic rise. And I made some pretty life-changing gains for myself at that time, and I held them all the way through the bear market. So watched it go up and watched it go down. You know, probably it went down below my initial investment for a period of time, and I didn't really look at it then or count it too much, but you know, it was painful. And I certainly wished I had been able to sell the top and be more prepared for that. But what allowed me to not lose my ass was the research, you know, taking the time to really understand the fundamentals of what I'm getting into and why. And, you know, I'll be the first to tell you that's why I've been in VGX for over 2 years. That's why I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere soon, because there's really some incredible fundamentals with VGX. But it's really beside the point, because the most important thing is, if you're going to make it here, you have to understand for yourself what you're doing and why. And when you make a decision, you want to be able to have the right conviction. Because if you don't understand the fundamentals, if you don't have the conviction, you're going to get shaken out. And there will be a variety of different reasons. You know, for every person, it's different what those moments are of capitulation. But they happen if you haven't taken the time to understand, you know, the real fundamentals of, you know, things like, you know, I'll just kind of briefly iterate from my journey. What is money? You know, how does money work? These are questions the Bitcoin Standard will walk you through pretty quickly. Understanding a little bit about, you know, economics, business cycles, and then of course, you know, sound money, hard money, deflationary versus inflationary. You start to put together those building blocks and those foundation pieces, and it becomes a lot easier to start dissecting
the market, different markets and different asset classes. And, within the wide range of cryptocurrency spaces, what, mid cap, small cap, large cap assets will be the right mix for you. So anyway, look, it's an incredible story, and you seem like you're, really, really well prepared for this journey. You sound like you've got a great head on your shoulders, and I wish the best of luck to you and, your girlfriend and your family, and we'll be here for you anytime you need anything. I'm around, and I'm sure the rest of this crew is too. So congratulations, and I'm sure you'll do the research, you'll figure it out, and you'll make the right decisions for you and your family. So congrats, buddy.
That's awesome. Thank you for the input, Bill. And I must say, I know that today is Cartel's birthday, but I feel like this community gave me a gift tonight because we had so many strong Bitcoiners pop up tonight. It was a real treat for me. But so I'm gonna go last here. So I'm gonna try to keep it very 30,000 foot view for you, because honestly, I think the true answer to the question of what to do with 100 grand depends entirely on your personal situation and details that we don't necessarily know that will be intimately personal to you. So I will just give you some caution to the things that you should be looking out for prior to making any decision. So first of all, it's already come up a few more times than anybody probably cares to discuss in one given night, but taxation. So you were given the gift or the winnings in Bitcoin, right? So you already mentioned that you were asked to fill out a W-9. That would lead me to believe that you're going to get a 1099 for the winnings. So this is already going to be incredibly subjective to you, depending on what your tax bracket is, what your other income looks like. That's going to be something intimately personal to you. However, I would maybe consider one goal to be not only to be a whole coiner right now, but to remain a whole coiner after paying the taxes, because whatever you got in that gift is basically going to be timestamped at the price of Bitcoin at the time it was given to you and then taxed accordingly. So when you do meet with your tax professional, assess your situation at a personal level to figure out how much of this you're going to get taxed on based on the price of Bitcoin at the time that it was given to you. And then maybe try to govern the rest of your decisions accordingly so that you can retain as much of the Bitcoin as you want to retain post-tax. Because you don't want to think you're a whole coiner only to get your tax bill in April and realize, well, actually you're a 2/3 coiner. So whatever you set up your goals for, just do it with a full, well-informed understanding of where you're going to land after taxes, because you received this as a gift. Right? Next, take into consideration the fact that now, because you are sitting in Bitcoin, any move from Bitcoin, even if it's crypto to crypto, is still going to be a taxable event. So if you go Bitcoin to ETH, Bitcoin to Polkadot, Bitcoin to Squid Game token, which you could probably buy the whole supply right now with your 100 grand, it's going to be a taxable event at that time. So even if you traded directly, Voyager, everything goes to and from USD on the way to the next currency. But there are some platforms or some other ways where you could trade crypto to crypto. What I'm getting at is it doesn't really make a difference in the eyes of the US government, because the tax man is going to see any trade, even crypto to crypto, as a transition from crypto to US dollar back to the next crypto. So if you were to make any of these moves after maybe a parabolic run in Bitcoin, well, that next move, you're then going to have additional taxation, not only the ordinary income that you got based on the fact that the Bitcoin was gifted to you, but now you're going to be taxed on short-term capital gains at your ordinary income tax rate, if you did it, obviously, in this bull run, on the difference between the price of the Bitcoin when it was given to you and the price of the Bitcoin when you sold it. So that's a big thing to take into consideration. And it also is something that I think would shape your strategy. So because of the timing, because of how late into this bull cycle you are, there are some decisions that maybe at a different time in the cycle would have been no-brainers as far as diversification that now become a little bit muddled, because now you have to consider, well, based on my personal income level, based on my ordinary income level, if I were to book any of these as short-term cap gains instead of long-term cap gains, then whatever I move the money to needs to be so convex of an investment that it mitigates the difference in the tax rates. And that's something that only you will know. So if you are doing well for yourself and you're up in that 30+% tax bracket, as opposed to booking long-term gains at 15%, that could be a massive difference. That could wipe out any of the intuitive leaning towards maybe chasing a more convex asset. Because if you have something that returns a 4x as opposed to a 3x, but you get taxed at double the rate, the math doesn't necessarily always work out. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily look at what they get to keep. They look at what it looks like on paper initially, and it can sometimes blind you. So these are things that I think you need to educate yourself on before you make any kind of moves, just so that you're making fully informed decisions. Because it's all going to depend on whatever your financial situation was pre-winning and what tax bracket you're in and what your time horizon is like. If your time horizon is to make any trades inside of a year, then it's very important to know what your short-term capital gains rate is going to be compared to long-term cap gains. And then even if you decide that it's tax advantageous or you're willing to take the risk to take short-term gains instead of long-term gains, and you do want to migrate out of Bitcoin, a lot of making the right decisions is going to depend entirely on how fast you can learn. You've alluded to being somewhat conversational in the space and somewhat dipped your toe in the past, but if you are going to start to seriously spread risk around this late into the cycle when some things have already run, it's a matter of knowing good decisions from bad decisions, or at least being able to assess the risk. And a lot of it's also going to depend on your risk tolerance. If you're already doing okay, and this is all money that you're willing to lose, then you can make concentrated bets in higher risk positions that other people possibly couldn't tolerate. Like if your life was going okay prior to this, and making 100,000 or not having the 100,000 isn't going to substantively change your life, but maybe betting on a higher risk potential of a trade means that $1 million changed your life in a substantive way, then it starts to change the risk reward. If you end up in a personal situation where losing this entire thing means nothing to you, doesn't change your quality of life, but 10xing it does, then that will start to weigh into your decision making. And then honestly, I think to me, it all comes down to how quickly can you learn enough for that decision to be an informed one. There's a ton of great products out there. There's a ton of great projects out there. There are opportunities in the stocks and equities and options side of the world. There are opportunities in private equity, venture capitalism, other crypto projects. There's always alpha to be sought. It's just a matter of how quickly are you going to be able to identify that and not fall victim to anyone's opportunism or anyone's bullshit, which is unfortunately a reality in the world where you become prey in that regard. So you really have to be very careful with who you trust in this situation, because you very publicly just came into a fairly respectable sum of money and you honestly can't know who to trust. So that's why I don't really want to opine on what you should do with the breakdown of the 100K. I would more like to arm you with the information that I would factor into my calculus in trying to decide what I would do, so that you can say, he didn't fucking tell me whether to buy Bitcoin or throw it all into SHIB. He just told me how to think or where to get the information to make the decision myself. That's, to me, what I would rather see for you. There's a ton of good things that you could do with it. If we were anywhere else in the cycle other than right now when some things have already started to run, like if we were early, like right at the happening, then I think it'd be a little bit more easy of a decision to give some non-financial advice, if you know what I mean. Where it's like, all right, maybe keep it 50% Bitcoin, 25% ETH, and then spread the rest out in a bag of lottery tickets. Whatever your appetite may be, or 70, 20, 10, something along those lines where you're heaviest in Bitcoin because it's the most stable, and then ETH because regardless of whether or not ETH is broken and the gas fees are horrendous, ultimately it's a matter of, is there a market for ETH? And there will be a market for ETH because it's attractive to both corporations and to nation states, because ETH, especially if it goes to proof of stake, is the most reminiscent of the current financial system, where he who has the biggest bag makes the rules and can determine what the truth is. So regardless of whether or not Solana does things better or BSC does things better, at the end of the day, that's not necessarily going to erode the market for ETH, because ETH is still going to be attractive to those that want to maintain the current system but digitize it. So that's where a lot of that comes into play. And then, I thought Floki raised a great point as far as if you can trade anything within an IRA. If you can roll any of those assets into an IRA and you can start to swing trade, potentially, either Voyager stock or, personally a swing trade that I've been doing religiously has been ETH, which is the Ethereum Grayscale Trust. It's a simple swing trade. You can go in and out without booking cap gains. There are different tax advantageous strategies that you can apply, but this is all going to come down to how much can you learn how quickly. And if at any point it's overwhelming or you feel rushed into a decision, there isn't much harm in staying in Bitcoin, in my opinion. If you wanted to, I think that there's some easy decisions to be made. Like if you're going to stay primarily in Bitcoin, then liquidating some to at least participate in the VLP as, you know, maybe an explorer, if not a navigator. I would say probably the explorer, because the navigator would probably be the majority of the bag by the time you figured out what your post-tax keep is going to be. But these are things that I would consider. So maybe go to the explorer tier. Make sure that you're going to get increased yield on the Bitcoin. Those are easy, kind of quick decisions that are, even if they're just a placeholder, while you educate yourself on your other options. There's not much harm to be done there. But there is a bunch of harm if you start to feel rushed or pressured or in some way coerced into doing certain things because of certain personalities or because of certain opportunities where, you know, you get that FOMO where you saw somebody else that's made a bunch of money on this, so now you feel like that's the rule and not the exception to the rule. But ultimately, a lot of those things are just games of musical chairs. And at the end of the day, to dive into that without the full understanding of it, there's not necessarily a chair for every ass when the music stops. So just make smart decisions. It's great to see somebody get this opportunity. It's even better to see somebody keep that opportunity long term. So, like I said, I'm long-winded and I'm here for you whenever you need to talk, and I'd be happy to talk you through anything at depth. We've talked through a bunch of this in previous AMAs too that we can send you links to. But that's my 2 cents. I know that I didn't give you specifics, but I would hopefully lead you down a path where you know the things that should at least be on your homework list of stuff to learn. But Piggy, I see you got your hand up, bud. How long have you had that up? Have I just been sucking all the oxygen out of the room? Go for it.
No, Michael, you're so much smarter than I am. So I just listen to everything you say and I absorb it and I love it. But here's the deal. I really want to appreciate a certain member of our community who is my grandpa. He's my best friend. He's my golden donkey, gorilla nuts friend of the world. And I had to drag him back into the space tonight because it is his birthday. So, Mr. Cartel, what I want to do is tell you how much this community loves everything that you do as a gigantic whale, diamond nuts, gorilla nuts best friend of all time. And Isaiah, I understand that you are probably very confused at this point in time, but what I need to do is reach out to my buddy Troy, who is Crypto Cartel, and I'm going to ask everybody who is a speaker at this point to unmute their mic so we can sing this gentleman his happy birthday song because he is celebrating a birthday today. So, Mr. Troy Cartel, gosh.
I'm ready, dude. Let's sing him a song. I'm ready. I got your back.
So here we are, and what I want to understand is he doesn't have to talk because he never wants to talk in these spaces, and I'm okay.
No, he
with
does
that.
have to talk. If we're all going to sing to him, he's got to get up here. That little lettuce finger chicken dick.
Now he's a lettuce finger.
Come on.
Don't be a lettuce
Michael,
finger.
that's not what we're doing right now. But I think we need to sing a happy birthday to Troy the Cartel, the Diamond Nuts, Lettuce Finger.
Lettuce fingers. I love it.
Supreme. So,
All right.
Can we do it on a 1, 2, 3 count?
You lead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday, chicken, lettuce finger, and motherfucker. Happy birthday to you.
Lettuce finger. Diamond lettuce. Cunt.
So that's my guy.
There's always something that goes too
That's
far.
that's the guy who speaks everything that we all want to say, and we love him so much. And sometimes we're totally afraid to like his post for the OPSEC portion of the VGX Heroes. But GD, Troy, Crypto Cartel, if you don't know how much we appreciate your post and love you, and just, oh my gosh, you are a member of this community, and someday we're going to get you here up on stage. But we love you. Happy birthday. And come check us out and talk soon.
So, Crypto Cartel, I don't know if you know this, but the moderators in the Discord have a specific channel dedicated to you. So all of your tweets automatically get sent over there, and we use that as light humor throughout the day.
I'm not gonna lie, my favorite part of that channel too is seeing how often you delete shit and then repost it with like, oh well, you know what that needed? That needed one more gorilla nut, or that needed like one more lettuce dick, or something like. Your emoji game is so on point, but you're getting up here and talking to us game is really shit. And happy birthday, but come on, cut the shit, get up here someday. Someday.
Oh, we love you, V. We love you, man.
Oh, we're
that's
watching
that's
your
a
movie.
Does someone want to plug Friday?
Yeah, so this Friday we are hosting a movie night. Unfortunately, we're not able to stream it, so you'll be at your own disposure as far as how you want to get it. But we're watching V for Vendetta, and it's if you got HBO Max, it's on there. You can stream it, or if you want to pay, I think it's like $4 to rent it on either Amazon Prime, Apple TV, or YouTube. You can get it on there as well. And we're gonna do this Friday, November 5th. This Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And we're just inviting everybody to join. We've got a movie night channel in the Discord where we meet up, and for this particular event, we're just gonna go old school and kind of hit play at the same time. And it's just a laid back thing. And so even if you can't make 8:30, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to join in. If you're late, you want to speed up to where we're at, or even if you just want to hang out in the channel and chat with us while we're watching, everyone's invited. It's really no pressure. But we're doing that in celebration of November 5th and for Cartel as well. So we hope to see people there.
Remember the 5th of November. Any last minute thoughts that anyone wants to get out here? We've gone 2.5 hours, and I don't want a single second of it. I'm down to stay as long as you guys want.
Real quick, I see Wonder Woman is now a speaker, and I assume she wants to speak. So can we hit her up real quick?
Yeah, if anybody wants to speak, go for it. I think everybody came up to sing happy birthday, but if anybody actually wants to speak, go for it.
Yeah, Daddy Pig, I'm here just to sing. I'm all good. Thanks, though.
So speaking of singing, the last couple of weeks we've been plugging the music room on the Discord. Tonight we just wanted to go ahead and remind everybody to go ahead and check out in the events, meetups, and activities section. There's a channel called Put Yourself on the Map. So over the past week or two, we've created this new role on the Discord called the Sidekick. It's basically like Hero Light for anybody that wanted to come in just for the alpha without any of the fun stuff, because they're more square than I am. But we've gotten a bunch of people that came in and didn't necessarily come in through the normal channels that we would normally follow. So if anybody doesn't know it's there, Put Yourself on the Map. You can go on there and emoji react with where you're from. And when we set up some IRL meetups, you can participate, and we can kind of, you're not fully doxing yourself. It's not like you're saying exactly where you are, but you can just pick kind of what states you'd be interested in being a part of the community for. And then we've got a meetups channel where we can tag specific states, and anybody that's in that state or anybody that's selected that state can go ahead and be identified that way. So if you haven't yet put yourself on the map, I would suggest you go ahead and do so. And that's coming from me, from an OPSEC perspective. So I don't think telling us what state you're in is really a huge risk. So cut the shit, get in there, and put yourself on the map.
Southern California, what's up, heroes? Let's make something happen. Downtown Long Beach, downtown LA, let's get it popping.
I think the leading states are what? California, Texas, and Florida right now?
Yeah, Florida had the lead the whole time, and now all of a sudden California came out of the woodworks and beat us by 1. So let's go, Floridians. Cut the shit.
West Side, what's up?
The link for the Discord is on the Heroes page. So click on the Heroes Twitter profile right there, follow it, and visit the Discord link.
Well, I just wanted to thank Isaiah for coming out.
Absolutely. Can everybody throw up some 100s for Isaiah coming out and speaking with us tonight? I mean, I wasn't able to hit a half-court shot in 3 years, and he hit it in one night and did so much for this effing platform, and we're so happy to have him be a part of this community.
LeBron James.
LeBron James.
LeBron James.
He's ready for it, and we're ready for him to be a part of it. I hope you can jump in the Discord and be a part of this community, and know that everybody here who is on this space and the people in this Discord, for the most part, are going to be people who have your best interest at heart and aren't going to try to sell you on some bullshit because they can make an extra dollar.
Yeah, this is true. Beware of YouTubers who post open mouth thumbnails.
Since it is like a closing sense, I just wanted to put a quick word in. This is my first space. Congratulations, Isaiah. First off, really loved your story. Very inspirational. Looking forward to hearing the future that you have. And big shout out to everyone in the community. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Floki, for hosting this. Crypto Daddy Pig. Hey, you know what's up. Much love sending to you as well. And loved hearing everyone's advice tonight, as I'm pretty new to crypto myself, and just hearing everyone's different viewpoints is so, it's just an eye opener, I guess. Love it. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on, of course, and I'm glad that my story wasn't too boring or long-winded for you guys, but no, I think the information that you guys shared is awesome. I think that's exactly the stuff that I was really looking for. Some of the stuff was more in the weeds, but that's stuff that I intend to learn about. I was actually texting my buddy throughout this whole thing, and we're just like, there's a lot of stuff that we need to figure out. Specifically, a lot with like the taxes stuff. I need to learn a lot there, but just in general, I appreciate you guys, of course, being very open and of course, like inviting me in to talk in the first place. And so again, definitely appreciate it, guys.
It was great having you here, and we're here every Wednesday night. So we've been doing this 9 to 11 Eastern, 8 to 10 Central, 6 to 8 Pacific.
That's right.
So we're here every week.
It was such a pleasure having you over, man, and talking with us. Thank you so much for your time. This was incredible. One of the better AMAs that we've had.
Such an awesome guy to win, too.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it very much.
Good night.
All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good
All
night.
right, I guess we're closing out. Strength and honor, everybody. Strength and honor. Have a great
Sorry, I love you. Sorry, I love you.
Peace out.
All right, music.